Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day and a great start to 2021. Welcome to Fundraising Bidness Talk. I'm Patrick Siver, and from G Events, your favorite, I hope, fundraising and auctioneer. I am so excited to have you today. Each week, we're going to be talking about what the latest and greatest trends are in the fundraising business, and what's happening in auctions, and just all sorts of fun stuff to help your nonprofit raise more money and continue your incredible missions in these difficult times. Hey, joining me today is a great friend of mine. I had an opportunity to spend some time with a few years ago at a continuing education seminar for benefit auction specialist with the National Auctioneers Association. And since then, he has his career has skyrocketed. He's done incredibly great things. He was named the 2018 International Auctioneer Champion, which is phenomenal to be able to acquire that status, be the best of the best at bid calling throughout the world. That's awesome. He owns Bray Auctions in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I hope that you'll join me in giving a little virtual applause to our good friend Barrett Bray. Barrett, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Patrick, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be a part of this.
Oh, it's fantastic, pal. I appreciate you making the time to join us today. You've had such a great career and fun things and been exposed to so many different things. But I got to tell you, one of the things that captures my attention is obviously the International Auctioneer Champion. I mean, that's awarded by your peers. Those are all the auctioneers voting on that, and the fact that you're awarded that is incredible. So congratulations. That puts you in the Hall of Fame in my mind. But from a career standpoint, other than the really nice trophy, it's had to expose you to a phenomenal group of people and give you opportunities to travel the world, basically, to talk about our business.
It has, and that's probably my favorite thing about it. I went into competing in the IAC simply because I had won the Oklahoma championship that same year, and I went to represent Oklahoma. I never, ever would have dreamed that I would come away with the trophy coming home from the deal. But I mean, really, I was raised. I've been in the auction industry full time since 2008, and in the company that I started with, and where I had spent almost 10 years. I was in a little bit of an auction bubble. I spent a lot of time in the auction industry, but only doing what that company was doing. I didn't get to know other auctioneers. I didn't see what other people were doing. So for me, the IAC was an opportunity to step in and meet other auctioneers and learn what other people are doing. And I was able to travel to 10, 12 different states, speaking at their state conventions, meeting the best of the best all over the US, and not only teaching others about the auction industry, but really sharpening myself on it as well. And that was hands down the best outcome of the IAC for me.
Well, and the experience and the fast track of learning. I mean, we can talk about, people think of auctioneers and that we talk fast and we're kind of funny sometimes. But the reality is being exposed to all those types of folks and understanding what's going on and what's working in all those different parts of the country and the world is invaluable, right? And that's the principle behind this show, is that we get caught up so many times, I think, in what we're exposed to in our little, as you said, a bubble, and we're not aware of what's happening or what's working in other parts of the country, and more importantly, what's not working in other parts of the country, right? We think
Absolutely.
We have a great idea, and we can find that somewhere else in the country it didn't work, and we shouldn't waste our time on it, right? So my whole premise behind this show is there are so many things happening in the benefit auction world in the last 9 months, 10 months, right? That I wanted to have a venue and a vehicle to share that information with, and I didn't want to just send it out in emails. I was optimistic that I could get guys like you that I respect and have a lot of admiration for, and I know are doing so many great things in the industry, to share your knowledge with folks. I think it's incredibly powerful, and that's what our industry is all about, right? I mean, you shared about the state associations and the different competitions. It's great, but it's really that time in the hallways, as we say, where you learn the most, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, and I think our relationship is a testament to that. You and I found ourselves, from center of the country and far West Coast, kind of going through and learning something, and we built a relationship. Since then, you and I talk on the phone at least every few months, checking in on, I have an idea for doing this, or have you ever tried something like that? And even you found your way here to Oklahoma City not too long ago, and we were able to spend some time here kind of bumping some things off of each other. So absolutely. Having that relationship and having that opportunity, I've had a phrase that I can't claim at all. It comes out of the Bible, but a phrase that has been attributed to me in the auction industry of really pushing forward is, as iron sharpens iron, a strong auctioneer sharpens another. So, for us to have that opportunity and to do it through this relational aspect, the way you're doing, I think you're at the front of the game, and I love to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time. And hey, I want to encourage our viewers today. We've got a few of them. And the reality is, in these live streams, we're really looking to create the content and post it, and people can watch it at their convenience. But when you are tuned in live today, if you've got a question, feel free, type it in the comments section. We'll be able to see it both on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. That's where we're broadcasting today, out to all three vehicles, platforms. And so, type in a question. In fact, start us off with just a hello and let us know what you're up to and where you're calling in from, where you're dialing in from to watch the show today. We'd love to be able to respond to any questions that people have right here in real time, because we know if we share an answer that it'll help somebody else that is watching the replay. So, hey, Barrett, tell me about Bray Auctions. What are you doing with Bray Auctions?
Yeah, well, and like I said, I spent the majority of my auction career working with one other company. Started in with them in 2008 and worked my way up through the ranks of being a ringman, an auctioneer, and then lead auctioneer and auction manager, and did everything like that. But really, what we focus on here at Bray Auctions, this is a newer venture for me. We launched early 2018, right before winning the International Auctioneer Championship. So I got pulled away from the business for about a year, but now that we're back into it and have had a couple of years to really put into it, we focus on several different asset classes or communities of practice. Obviously, the benefit auction side of things is something that we do. We stick strictly to the Oklahoma City market and in this area here. But on top of that, we also do business liquidations, real estate, personal property, just a little bit of everything. So that's kind of been my background in the business, is doing a little bit of everything. And I feel like the auction industry has the opportunity to build into itself in that way, when you can be have multiple tricks and be able to do multiple things. So that's kind of what we focus on here.
Well, and diversification is important, right? A lot of our friends, many of our classmates at Benefit Auction Specialist are not doing auctions anymore, right?
Right.
And sometimes it's difficult when you focus on just one type of auction. I tend to focus on benefits, but I also have my golf tournament business also. So, others who 100% in the benefit business, they've had to make some adjustments, and I've clearly made some adjustments in the last 9 months with respect to, as I sit here in front of you, I joke, I couldn't spell live stream on March 11th last year. Now I sit in front of a boom mic and multiple monitors and lights and all this stuff, and you and I are live streaming on 3 platforms. I'm like, how did that happen? Right. But hey, you do what you've got to do. Tell me a little bit. I know what's happening here in Oregon with the benefit business. Everything has moved to virtual. I would say, the 40 events I was got contracted to do a year ago, I ended up executing 20 of them. 15 of those were virtual. Okay. I think I'm contracted right now for 2025 virtuals in this year, 2021. What's happening in the Oklahoma City market?
We've seen it go down significantly where I'm at now. Oklahoma City, we're a large metro area, not what people usually think of when they think of Oklahoma overall, but we're not anywhere close to Dallas, Texas, or Chicago or anything like that. So we were probably running 25 to 30 events a year previously in 2018, 2019, and in 2020, I think we dropped to five, six maybe. Is what we did overall. Not a lot of the virtual that's been going on here just yet. Our the benefit auctions and fundraising in Oklahoma is driven so tightly to the oil and gas industry here.
Yeah.
So oil and gas has been struggling as well. It kind of was just a perfect storm for us that hit at the same time as the COVID scare and everybody pulling back on things. So I think that slowed everybody down a little bit, and everybody in the nonprofit sector kind of decided, let's just take a step back for the year and reevaluate. Now that we've gotten past that year and we're kind of turning the tables on the beginning of 2021, I think I've gotten 4 emails or text messages in the last 2 days from those same nonprofits that are reaching out and saying, okay, we have to move forward. We took our time off. What does the new lay of the land look like? What do you have that you can offer us where we can see some sort of benefit in what we're doing, but doesn't look like it did in the past, because it can't look like it did in the past. So we're starting to see in our area here in the central US and Oklahoma City that those NPOs are really reaching out and looking for what the benefits are on the virtual side of things, or what they can do differently to take a new direction and kind of forge a new path ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, hopefully, because like we talked about earlier, the sharing of information and whatnot, you know, I know our conversation the other day, you felt good about and said, hey, gosh, you know, I hadn't even thought about that. Right. So, you know, hopefully there's some opportunity where your nonprofits and yourself can learn from what we've seen in Portland, because it's been totally different. Right. You know, we've one of the studios that I work with are friends over at the AV department. Yes, that's the name of their company. It's the AV department. I think it's the greatest name ever, right? And Todd and Brian and all the folks there have done a phenomenal job. They did the first virtual with me March 11th. And then the next day we were in their offices and they were saying, hey, we want to set up a studio. What do you need as a fundraising host, as a benefit auctioneer? What would you be looking to? And then I know they spoke to some of our colleagues, you know, friends like Kelly Russell and Misty and Shauna Wells and all the folks that have really, you know, been at the top of their game in this industry, in our market. And together, you know, we put together some formats that worked really well. And I think Todd was telling me over at the AV department, they did 167 virtual fundraising events since March.
Wow.
So that gives you a sense, right? And the reality is, you're right. You know, with the emotion that the nonprofits are feeling in your market, where, hey, we didn't have any options maybe a year ago in 2020. They didn't know what this virtual landscape was going to be. And I also think that, you know, depending on the parts of the country you're in, you just have a different opinion of the pandemic and different things like that. Whereas we've been a lot more restrictive on the West Coast. I'm not making a statement right or wrong. I'm just saying it's been a different climate, right? And people realize that, hey, you know, what I see with the nonprofits, tell me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, the organizations, the need for their services is greater than ever in this pandemic, right? And so not only do they need the money they needed before, they need even more, right? And when you take a year off, wow, that's going to be an issue. And you didn't raise that money. Now I know a lot of folks have done, you know, giving campaigns where they've just basically asked for donations, and that's all good and well, and hopefully they've been successful. But you know, what I've learned, Barrett, is that virtuals don't get canceled, right? And so when you're looking at 2021 and you're thinking about, you know, can we do a gathering event? Well, you can plan all you want, but who knows? I mean, March 9th, I was scheduled to do an event March 11th, and at 9 o'clock at night, all of a sudden we were live streaming, and less than 24 hours later. So had we not had that capability, that would have been a problem. And that group would have lost over $100,000 in net revenue. So yeah, this format's incredible. I want to talk to a little bit. One of the things, if we could shift a little bit, is I want to tap into your traditional auction mindset, because as you know, I'm a benefit auctioneer. I've been exposed to a lot of auctioneers and a lot of auctions, but I really focus on that benefit business. And one of the things that I've noticed, Barrett, is that I think when we move to the virtual environment, let's talk about a couple of things that happen, right? I think best practices say all the bidding goes online. Okay, we're going to move everything to online bidding. We're going to open up that bidding a week, maybe 10 days prior to what is going to be the culmination with a live stream. Okay.
Right.
And we're going to, and so I think, okay, that's great. Now let's contrast that a little bit to what used to be done. We used to have a silent auction, and then we would usher, that would last 60 to 90 minutes. And then we would usher everybody into the ballroom and make them sit in really tight chairs. And no statement there, of course.
Tight for you and me, at least.
Yeah, not you. God, you're a skinny guy compared to me.
No.
My point is, though, is we rushed them into the table, and we waited, had a couple of speeches, and we had a nice dinner, and then we started the auction. Right. Okay. Well, now we've got a week, right? And a lot of times people had no idea what was available in the auction until the night of the event.
Right.
Okay. And when we take that silent auction in particular, we had who knows how many packages with a piece of paper in front of them that had 12 lines on it. Maybe it had a buy it now line, which was at, let's say 150% of value. Okay.
Yep.
But we only had 60 to 90 minutes for people to bid on those things. And at the same time, they were supposed to get a beverage, and they were supposed to see old friends, and the room was too crowded, and it was crazy. Right.
Right.
Now they got a week to bid. They can go on and they can look at the catalog whenever it's convenient. They can discuss, they can go back and forth. And what does that resemble?
A traditional auction.
A traditional online auction. And you guys in the traditional part of the business have been doing online auctions for 25 years, as I understand it.
Well, and I would say that, it's so funny that you bring that up after talking about where my career has gone over the last 3.5 years or so, because in the past, all of our online auctions were really, truly simulcast auctions is all that they were.
Right.
It was. So, necessity is the mother of invention, right? We as auctioneers, no matter what our asset class, no matter what our community of practice, we always tout ourselves as being problem solvers. We are there to go in to be the advocate and to be the problem solver, to help our clients through whatever process that they see themselves in. That's the process that I went through when I launched Bray Auctions. Was I knew that there were things that could be done better, but to be the first guy that's jumping out and doing it is a little bit scary. And I was the first guy in the Oklahoma City metro area that switched over to online only auctions. And now fast forward 2.5 years later, and everybody is doing it. But we were able to really set the tone for what that was going to look like in the Oklahoma City market and through central Oklahoma on things. So now we find ourselves in the same position, taking that mentality and transitioning it over to the benefit side of things and fundraising auctions. We can't do things the same way that we always did. And even if we can do those things, are we going to just go right back to it? Or are we going to take the opportunity to see what is more convenient, what is going to be more palatable and more efficient and raise more money for our clients overall on things? If we can be the first one stepping out on it, then boom. You're changing the entire landscape of where you're at versus where you've been. Exactly.
And I don't know that I was always taught that, auctioneers, we represent our seller, right? And that's in the business, in the fundraising world, we represent our nonprofits, right?
100%.
And our goal is not to listen to ourselves talk fast. Our goal is to help those people make the most money they can possibly make, right?
Absolutely.
And so, there's been online bidding in the benefit world for the last several years, and it's been met with some resistance, and people didn't want to be at a cocktail party looking at their phones and whatever it is, right? But we're past that now. Okay.
Sure.
And to your point, our role as the auctioneer is to help our clients make the most money possible. And online bidding is going to do that because, the obvious is we can expand the market, but I think there's some other things that we can do that is really possible. The number one thing that I wanted to get your feedback on today is to tap into your mind from a standpoint, and I already know the answer, but I want everybody in our audience to hear it, and the people who watch this. When you have an online auction and you do everything from, business liquidations, you can have some pretty big assets. You can have tractors, you can have, computers and office equipment. You can, ridiculously high value items, right? I mean, $30,000 John Deere tractor, right? You sell real estate online, okay? You can have some gorgeous, phenomenal homes. People, misnomer for another episode, think that, real estate at auction sometimes is all about distressed properties. It's not, right? You and I know that, well, that's another subject. What is the starting price that you would use to start an item, any package, any item in your online auction?
I would go to what I've learned in selling items through a traditional business liquidation or anything like that, or any real estate we do. We have made the decision that we are going to start every single item at the same price moving forward, and it's $1. And that's $1. That is whether it is a box lot of miscellaneous tools that got pulled out of a garage, or recently, just in the last few months, we sold about a 1.4 million piece of property that was not a distressed property. And both of those started at $1. And we've come to the decision, and I think a lot of people have come to that decision in the traditional auction market, is that I'm much more interested in where that item ends than where it begins. And I want to make sure that I never set any kind of hurdle for my potential bidders or buyers from the beginning. If I come in with, even if a $1.4 million auction, if I started it even at $500,000, I mean, it was going to triple on that almost before the thing was done with. But how many people am I missing out on that were willing to put in 100,000, 200,000, 250,000, 300,000 as it's moving forward? The name of the game with online only auctions, as far as I'm concerned, is about engagement. And the earlier that you can engage, the longer you can keep those potential bidders engaged as a part of the process. We want to cast out our net early so that we can fill the net as quickly as possible. And as that net is filled, it gives us the potential for more competition for any asset that you're selling at all. That's my take on it, at least.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you that I think in the benefit world it has even more value. And the reason I say that is, when people bid, what do they do? What happens before they can bid? They have to
input their personal information.
They have to register, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They in essence have to show, hey, I'm interested in this item. I can pay for this item. Okay. And what does that mean? That means that now all of a sudden we have access to share our story as a nonprofit with that person, right?
Because what happened in the past? We'd have Mr. Board Member or a socialite that decided they were going to buy a table at the event, and they passed out the tickets to some close friends. Those friends may not have been the target person that you wanted to come to the event because they weren't there and they weren't in a position to give at that event or anything. But it was still an opportunity to put the vision in front of them from the nonprofit's perspective. But right. But if you weren't really, really tedious and very strict about it, you weren't necessarily capturing that personal information for that potential future donor and supporter of the organization, and overall on things. Now we aren't limited to the number of seats that we have at a ballroom. We are limited only by the amount of marketing that we can do, and now we can throw out a much, much larger net. And no matter what, we are walking away from the event with a huge, huge number of people that we know have at least had the seed planted in them as far as what the vision and what the mission is of the nonprofit moving forward.
Yeah. No, it's it's mind-boggling, right? And people on the other end of the camera, right? And hey, shout out to our good friend Tim Stewart, fellow auctioneer, ironically, right? But does great work at Tim Stewart Realty. But he's watching today, and thanks Tim for tuning in. But I'm a donor. Nonprofits are always looking for more donors, and if we can get people who voluntarily say, "Hey, I'm interested in your organization," and nonprofits are also incredibly competitive. I know we don't like to say that, but they are, right? And so as we move into this online world, we talk about that there's this incredible bandwidth of availability, but the reality is, we got to get them in the door first, right? So when we can get them to register, now we've got them. And what's going to make them pick my online auction versus your online auction? If we can promote that every package is going to start at $1, they're going to come to our auction if nothing more than to look, right?
Absolutely.
And you know, it's crazy. You can speak to this. You know, when we're bid calling, we know that we don't have any intent of selling, you know, the trip to Mexico for $100, right? And we're going to get people that start bidding at $100. And as soon as they bid that first time, they can feel the sand in their toes.
Yeah.
And they would have never started at $1,000, but they'll start at 100. And at 100, they may continue to bid to 1,500 to 2,000 to 2,500.
And guess what? Now we've taken that excitement that we have from the live auction, and we are transitioning it and translating it into the silent auction items as well. Because now instead of them writing a number on a piece of paper and saying, well, I'll see if I win that, now they are getting that notification when they get outbid. Now they have the opportunity for that soft close. It's going to extend past the time on that individual item rather than sending your volunteers around to pick up the pieces of paper and nobody has the chance to go any further on that. Now they get that they get that same, the blood in the water where they're going to go after it and they're going to go, you know what? I came this far. I'm going to go ahead and go for that thing. And it adds the excitement into the process of the silent auction that you still were able to do it, but it was much, much more difficult when you were just dealing with pieces of paper and lines on a piece of paper.
Well, not only that, but you were worried about dinner getting cold, right?
Exactly.
So you had to close time, right? And what you're talking about there when you talk about soft closes, I'll just touch on it a second. It's a whole show, it's a whole episode coming up. But anti-sniping, right? I mean, you've been using it in the online auction world for years. And basically, folks, for those who are watching, are unfamiliar with it, it's a feature of online software. Not every auction software package has it, right? At least not in the benefit world. It does in the commercial side, but not in the benefit world. But what it does is it allows us to set an increment where within a window of time, if an auction package receives a bid, let's say in the last 2 minutes before the scheduled closing time, that it will extend that closing time another set increment of time. So normally I recommend, Barrett, you probably have a policy too. I recommend on the benefits, if a package receives a bid within 5 minutes of the closing time, I want them to extend it another 5 minutes, right?
I think that works out. We do 3 minutes with our nonprofits, but anywhere in that range I think works great.
Yeah, 2 to 5, but extend it 5 minutes, right? Because let the software notify the person who's been outbid that, hey, you've been outbid, you've got 5 minutes to bid again, right?
Exactly.
And put it right there in their hand. I mean, it shows up right on your phone. Wow, how good is that? I don't have to worry about all sorts of different things, right? So, but the anti-sniping is incredible. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story, Barrett. I had a group that we implemented it on back in November. They had 31 packages in their online auction. 7 of them extended. Okay? Yeah. The revenue that was taken in after the initial closing time was over, I think it was $1,100. Okay. Now, not a big auction, but that more than paid for the software.
100%.
Right. The software, our good friends at Octria have an unbelievably robust product. I can't believe that they only charge what they charge. It's ridiculous. But the package was $600. They made an extra $1,000 just because of that feature, right? Yeah. So it's phenomenal. So
talk about a value proposition on that. Huge.
Absolutely, right? Because you look at your what some people would think of as expenses, I like to think of as investments, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's your professional benefit auctioneer who's a member of the NAA, possibly has their BAS certification. That's an investment in your event being successful, right? And even though we may not be doing as much bid calling in this virtual world as we were in the past in the ballroom, if you're tapping into those BASs, those benefit auction specialists, they have a wealth of knowledge on all aspects of your event to help you be successful because of relationships like you and I have and across the country with our fellow auctioneers. So it's powerful. I want to go back to the starting at $1. concept, because I think it's just, I think there's going to be some benefit auctioneers watching this at some point that go, Patrick's crazy, right? And that's okay. But I want to share with you. I was able to, when I first had this storm in my head a couple of months ago, one of my clients, I said, hey, here's an idea for it. And the reason I said it to them is that they'd had some let's call it, I think people on the other end can understand this in the nonprofit world. Their committee had some political upheaval, right? And so all of a sudden, this year's committee had no access to information from previous years. Okay, they didn't know who was at the event. They didn't know. They had nothing. Okay, and so when it came time to tell people about the virtual, they didn't know. They didn't have email addresses, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, they did know that they had about 100 people attend the event because they could see the bill from the caterer, right? So you and I know that 100 people, really, most people come in couples. So that's really 50 bidders, right? Is the way we'd look at it. 50 bidders, 50 pocketbooks. Now, what's interesting to me is that I talked to him about, I said, if we started, and I said $10 because I hadn't had this conversation with you at the time. But I said, if we can start everything at $10 and we can promote that, I think we'd get a lot of activity, and I think a lot of people would be interested. Well, we ended up registering 167 bidders. Yep. Some from 50 to 167. That's 3 times as many bidders. And it was incredible. We still achieved an incredible percentage relative to fair market value. No different than you shared. I mean, I want to repeat this again. You started a house at $1 that sold for 1.35 million. Okay. Yeah. Online, right? So it works. It's incredibly powerful stuff. And I hope we see, I just encourage the organizations out there to really tap into their professional auctioneers, people that, if you're not sure if the person's professional or not, if they're not a member of the NAA, National Auctioneers Association, that kind of is I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just telling you that it says they're really investing in their career. If they're a part of the NAA, if they're a benefit auctioneer and they have that BAS, I think that's a real positive also for you. Gives them some credibility. So when you're looking for that professional auctioneer, ask if they're a member of the association. You know how important that is, Barrett.
Absolutely. My goodness, you and I wouldn't have a relationship that we had if it wasn't for the NAA and the benefit auction specialist designation. Moving along, and I mean, and there's dozens of other auctioneers that are in the exact same boat with me. Most of them probably wish that I didn't go and get to know them because I'm bugging them and picking on their ears all the time. I wanted to say something, Patrick, as you're talking about the just the increase in the amount of engagement. Again, I mean, I told you that's where my mindset is on auctions, and that's engagement. We were able, when we transitioned into the online bidding, through a traditional auction, selling personal property and commercial industrial equipment, things along that nature, we were seeing on average on a weekday when we were closing an auction, we would have anywhere from, we felt like we were doing pretty good if we had 50 to 100 bidders show up at a ballroom style auction. Yeah. Since transition, but now what is the threshold that we are putting out there for our interested buyers? You have to be at this place at this time on this day. You have to stay and you have to wait through the entire process, whether you're the item or items that you're interested in or at the beginning, middle, or end of the auction. You've got all of this time that you're putting in on it. That's a pretty high threshold to put in on someone, especially when we're dealing with the environment and just our culture the way that we are right now. People want what they want when they want it. We're in a microwave auction industry right now, and we need to give them the opportunity for that. We are averaging anywhere from 350 to 500 bidders in our normal online auctions now. Yeah. And again, we're starting it. We're starting the auction. We have the auction online for anywhere from 10 to 14 days. We allow people to go in and bid at their convenience, whether you're a morning person or you're a night owl, whether you want to bid at the office or whether you want to bid while you're sitting on the toilet. You've got the opportunity to do that. And it's opening up the convenience for our customers so that we can give a better product on behalf of our clients moving in on things. And I'm going to say one more thing along the lines of that as that goes. This is something that we integrated back in early 2019 for our nonprofits, for our benefit auction clients as well. A lot of them didn't see the benefit of moving to online auctions because they saw it as a large financial obligation they had to jump into.
Yeah.
So we jumped in and we said, listen, we've got a platform. Now it's going to be branded to this company because we're selling, real estate and wrecked cars and machine shops at the same time. But it's not anything at all for us to take your logo, to put that in as the auction information and just send people through to this. Now you're limited to the number of people that can be there at the event because maybe a family has a vacation that they've been planning to Disney World for the last year, and it happens to fall on the same week that your gala is happening.
Right.
Maybe you've got a guy who's having to travel for work and he's not able to be there. But one way or another, you can give all of those people the opportunity and push it out 5 to 7 days in advance. And now let everybody know what's available. They have the knowledge of what's selling at the auction. They're able to engage in it up to that amount of time ahead of time. And then they can still just push right through on it at the event, similar to what they'd done before, because more often than not, they're engaging and they are registering and they're a part of the process before they ever showed up at the event. So now we're able to do the same thing as a piece of our virtual auctions as well. It's been great for us.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal and great advice, right? I mean, a great way to, it instills more value in the professional auctioneer who's doing this for a living, and your picture is in the dictionary next to professional. So that's awesome. The other thing I want to think about or discuss briefly here as we start to wrap up, Barrett, is that what does the future hold, right? And one thing that we talk about is that virtual events don't get canceled, right?
Right.
And so, my advice to most of my clients today is let's plan virtual, and let's think about, we would like to add a live audience to it. Okay.
Right.
As opposed to, we're going to plan to be back in the ballroom in the fall. And then 6 weeks before, 2 weeks before, could be 24 hours before. Now all of a sudden we got to go virtual. That's a problem. Okay. But if we could say, all right, we've got venue, we can live stream from this venue. And what we're going to do is whatever the current environment allows, if we can have 25 people there, if we can have 50 people there, if we can socially distance 100 people there, that would be great. But I think it would be foolish if we did not live stream. Okay. And you said the magic word a few minutes ago, and I don't know if you realized it under this context, but you said simulcast auctions. Mm-hmm. And you and I know what that is, where you've got an auction hall where you're selling items, but you also have people that have been bidding online. And now you have people in the live venue that are raising their bid cards. You're at the podium. You're 100 out of bid, net two, and I can't do it like you. You're the international champion. But and simultaneously, we have one of our staff on the computer monitoring and plugging in what's happening in the room and letting us at the podium know what's happening in the online, right?
Yep.
We've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
And so it's nothing in my mind. It's once again, take the best practices of what's been done and proven, and let's incorporate that into the benefit world, right?
Yes.
So I recommend constantly to new client or to clients now as they're thinking about the future, let's plan on virtual and let's hope to add an audience to it, right? What are your thoughts?
I love it. In fact, that's something that I was kicking around with another friend of mine the other day, that I really see us going that direction. When we're talking to, and obviously you've got benefit auctioneers that are jumping in and they have different levels of engagement with a nonprofit, depending on what they want to do. You've got some groups that just want an auctioneer to come in and do things. Obviously, you and I are the ones that are going in and we are working with them ahead of time. We are talking about, here's your best practices. Here's what we need to plan for this. Let's not do this video at this time. Let's shorten the length of that one on there. But what is the biggest fear of a nonprofit whenever anything's going on? Fear number one is that either you or I, the person who is in charge of the fundraising, is going to get hit by a bus on the way to the event and aren't going to be there and something's going to fall apart. Fear number two, you jump right in with the same mentality as far as what happens if we have a hiccup with our internet system? What happens if we lose power at the event and we don't have, or our audio video team loses capability of accessing all that stuff? Now, you talk about professionalism, Patrick, the way that you do things and what we talked about, you have all of those videos pre-recorded. And I think what we're going to see moving forward is even transitioning away from some of the live MC, live deals, except for just the auction itself. And all of those things are going to be pre-recorded and ready to put in, so that whether you have people sitting in a ballroom and watching on the large screens, because that's what we do anyway, right? We were talking about this past Sunday, my wife and I at church, saying, I don't know the last time I was actually looking at the pastor. I'm looking up at the screen so I can see him a little bit better. Yeah. And it made me realize that's exactly what all of our attendees are doing as well. They're not looking at us on a stage. They want to see the passion on our faces. They want to be able to see exactly what's going through on things. And being able to do that as a pre-recorded video and having all those things together, now you have all of the pieces to put together, whether it needs to be a virtual only event or whether you're able to take advantage of doing a simulcast, a hybrid event where you have live bidders who are there, who have the availability, but you're still able to reach out to everybody else across the nation and across the world who are interested in what you're doing. And all it takes for them to do is one click to have a funnel going straight into them, hearing the voice and the vision of whatever that nonprofit is.
Absolutely. And you control the message so much better, right? Mm-hmm. How many times have we been in that ballroom event where we introduce someone and they got to make their way through the crowd, right? And then they get to the crowd. Is the mic on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Speak up. It all goes away with pre-recording in a professional AV crew, right?
It does. You never have that attendee that decides to go off script and ramble on for an extra 15 minutes on the microphone and kill all of your emotion and all of your momentum in the room.
It's so funny you say that. I've got a video, and I'm gonna close it here in a few minutes. I'm gonna run it. It's a little 1 minute, 2 minute deal, but it says all the things you're not gonna miss about the gathering event, right? When you go virtual, there's no more lines at the bar, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody gets the wrong meal. Even the folks with the vegan choices are happy, right? Nobody misses dessert, runs out of coffee, runs out of wine at the table. I mean, and it's none of that is the fault of the caterer. It's just the nature of the beast, right?
It is.
And we can control the environment so much better with these live streams, and the giving, and we can expand the market. I think it's, when we talk about the vision for these hybrids, I think of a show like Saturday Night Live, right? They're going to have, the show is live, but there's, I don't know how many people are in the audience, but there's one there. Okay. And so picture people, and now you control who those people are too, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you decide that it becomes a VIP status to be at the actual event, right? And now all of a sudden you invite that, whatever the current environment will allow, and they come and they have a social hour that they get to mix and mingle, right? Get the benefits of a gathering event, and then they go in and they sit in a theater type of format and they watch the show and they bid when they want to bid and they raise their paddles, and there might even be a camera facing the crowd, right? And we put that bidder and look at it, it'd be great TV, right? I mean, think about, you're involved with Barrett Jackson, right?
Right.
And people are watching that all day long, right? It's a perfect example of a hybrid. Is it a hybrid?
100%.
Simulcast, right? People are, I mean, how many people are in that room at Scottsdale when you guys are selling cars?
God. That's a great question. Oh, thousands.
Yeah, yes. Thousands. But how many people are online? That's
thousands.
What we're moving.
Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. How many people are watching on TV? And it's all, and again, it's all back to engagement. We used to have to decide on what did we want as a part of an event. Do we want, every single potential donor is quality to us, but you also had to deal with quantity as well. Did we want quantity? Because we're limited by the amount of space, we're limited by the amount of time, we're limited by the number of items that are going to be coming in, and what our normal rules were about how many items per wallet did we want coming in that we were going to do. Versus, did we want quantity and be able to blast us out? We take advantage of this one time a year for this gala and this event. We want to get as many people involved and be able to scream from the rooftops what our message is going through from it. Well, now we have the opportunity to do both.
Yeah. No, it's phenomenal. It's an incredibly exciting time in our industry. I hadn't even thought of that Barrett Jackson comparison, but that's a perfect example of something that is a best practice on what I would call the traditional or commercial side of our auction industry. that will fit wonderfully and use that model in our new virtual world for fundraisers. So, hey, Barrett, I don't want to take all your time. You got something to sell, I'm sure, and I just can't thank you enough for making the time to share some of your incredible thoughts and history with us and our little audience here today. It's been fantastic and an honor to have you here. I appreciate it so very much. If I can ever do anything for you, you know who to call. And
you already do more than you know, and it's an honor to be here. And I'm proud to be tied to anything that you're doing. You're pushing the envelope forward on everything, Patrick, and keep it up. We all need to hear it.
I appreciate it, buddy. I'm gonna let you go and get back to selling something, and it'll be we'll catch up soon. All right, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye. So, folks, hey, Barrett Bray, what a guy. If you're looking to see what Barrett's got going, I encourage you to go to bidbray.com. That's his website. Barrett's doing some great work. Always got some great sales and things happening in the auction industry, and just a general all-around good person and good guy. So thanks, Barrett, so much for being with us again today. Hey, as we get ready to wrap up, I wanted to share a video. I've shared it a lot recently, but I want to share it again. It just kind of highlights things about virtual events and what I've learned over here talking to auctioneers, talking to clients in the last, since March, what we've learned about this industry. And it kind of summarizes it up in a little 2-minute video. I just want to run it for you and have you take a look. Well, all righty, folks. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you'll consider joining us every Wednesday. We're going to be doing this show, and it'll be Wednesdays at noon Pacific Standard Time, talking about fundraising Bidness. A little play on words there for us auction fans. But thank you so much for being with us today. Don't hesitate. Drop a comment. We'd love to follow up with you. And if you think there's an event we can help you with, please don't hesitate to let us know. Appreciate you being here. All the best.